Welcome everybody to the Real Dealz podcast, one of the top-ranked real estate investing podcasts for the last 7 years. This is the place to be for investing strategies you can actually use, expert interviews, and of course, some good old-fashioned entertainment. Now, here's your host for the show, Elliot, the REI guy, Smith.
What's going on, Real Dealz podcast listeners? This is show 370. Now, this is going to be a little bit different of a show this week. I'm going to go back to a monologue, no guests this week. I actually might start mixing it up and doing a little bit less guests. It seems like, a lot of the guests I've had on, I can keep getting guests, but they've made the podcast rounds and stuff. And I'm going to talk a little bit more about my business, our investing, talk about what's going on in the market. One of the things that always drew me to Tucker was his monologues, because I wanted to listen to him every week because I thought he was extremely smart. So I don't think I'm nearly as smart as Tucker, but as we're all growing together and learning together, I think we're moving into the new direction, and we're kind of repassing the torch. I'm taking it over, and you guys are following along with my growth, and hopefully we can follow along with your growth as well. So I've had a lot of you reach out to me and tell me some freaking awesome things that's going on in your lives and in your business, and got some feedback, and we've had some dialogue back and forth. So it's been really, really good.
All right, Real Dealz podcast listeners, I want to talk quickly about our show's sponsor, Iron Bridge Lending. If you guys have not reached out to Iron Bridge already to talk to them about funding some of your upcoming flip projects, I highly encourage you to do so. I've known the owner of Iron Bridge for a very long time. I personally borrowed millions of dollars from them over the years to do a number of different projects, and I can say without a doubt, they are the best hard money lending company I have ever come across, and that is the reason why they are the sole sponsor of this show. I've had a lot of other companies reach out to me and want to sponsor this show, but I just won't do it. I feel like I need to be genuine in who we have sponsoring the show, and it needs to be somebody that I've personally done a ton of business with. So I personally vouch for their ability to be the best, hands down, in the world of hard money lending. You won't find better programs, you won't find better terms, and they're lending or will be lending in over 20 states. So chances are, if you're hearing this in whatever state you're in, it's definitely worth it to check out their website, reach out to them, see if they're lending in your state, and if they are, I would absolutely encourage you to do business with them. Another very cool thing to note is that they have a program for most rehabs where you can actually borrow up to 90% of the purchase price. Now, this is given the fact that you are actually buying a deal, which if you're listening to the show, that means you probably are. But if you have an actual deal on the table, they'll fund up to 90% of your purchase price, and they'll even give you rehab funds on top of that, which means that it only takes 10% down to get into a project, which is unbelievable in the hard money world. So do yourself a favor, reach out to Iron Bridge Lending, have a conversation with them, see if they're a good fit for you and for your next project. I can guarantee you that you'll be happy that you did.
I have been talking about buying a 25 unit since February, I think now. So we are signing on that today. A little bit more on that deal. That's a 25 unit in Richland, Washington. It's kind of in my hometown where I grew up and where we live currently. The numbers look great. So we got Freddie Mac loan terms. We went, it's a 30-year AM, so it's a $2.1 million purchase. We 25% down, 30-year loan term, amortization schedule, 10-year term with a 10-year float. So that means we can have it up to 20 years on that. So we don't have to refi it right at year 10. Then first 2 years of interest only, which is freaking awesome. It's going to cash flow really well without interest only. It's going to cash flow even better for the first 2 years with interest only. And 3.94% financing. On the financing, no points. So we got them to do it for no points. Now, there's also other fees. They have attorney fees for Freddie. It was like $6,000. We have, fees for appraisal. Everything's more expensive in the commercial world. Your HUD statement is so much longer when you're in the commercial world. It's mind blowing, actually. So, but we're buying it at a 7.8 cap on actuals, which is really, really good. I'm really excited about that. I think that also has COVID numbers in there, and rents seem to be picking up, and they're, in the last, 3 or 4 months, they weren't as bad as they were over the summer last year. on that unit. So really think that we should be able to push this NOI up quite a bit, roughly 164 on the actuals on 12-year trailing from March through March this year, NOI. And that cap rate is definitely better than the market is trading at probably on the open market. So really fortunate about that. I'm a little nervous because in the sense that we're just doing this deal 50-50. I partner on a lot of these deals because I just, you don't always have the capital to do all these deals yourself. But this deal, we were stretched ourselves a little bit and we partnered 50-50 on this deal. I got some equity, and this is the one really good thing about finding the deals and bringing the deals in. So instead of going 50-50 on the cash to close, we did 45-55. I got 5% of free equity for bringing the deal. So I was able to bring less money into the deal. The one thing about Freddie right now is with COVID, they want 12 months in reserve. So they want like $90,000 in a reserve escrow account. And that's for a year. And if in a year, we can show them that, we're above a certain occupancy and everything's running smooth, we get that money back. We can also use that money to draw against for doing like rehabs and fixing up the place and things like that. So we can use the money. They just want a safety net there because of COVID. The great thing about this loan was we did the 8-unit loan last December that we closed on it. And we went with the credit union. The rates were higher and they underwrote us more than they underwrote the deal. So, tax returns, financials, I think it was 2x net worth, all these different things. It was a friggin' pain in the ass. It was worse than a single family loan. Freddie, all they wanted to see was 1x net worth of the partnership. They didn't care where you source the funds. They didn't care about seasoning of the funds. And it was so simple. And then they basically just wanted a personal financial statement from us. And then they underwrote the deal on the deal itself. So they had a minimum debt to service coverage ratio of 1.25. We were well above that, so no issues. And so Greg and I, the guy who bought it, we thought to ourselves, shit, why aren't we doing more of these loans? So we set a goal to go buy 500 more units in the next 18 months by the end of 2023. So if you have any properties in Washington State, multifamily, we're looking at 1 to 10 million, actually probably 1.5 to 10 million. So we can get the Freddie loans. We're looking for that. And so we're putting a campaign on that right now and building a team out to do that. So really, really excited about that. Also, that gives us 66 doors under management now. We don't own all 66 doors 100%. We own single family, like 10 units, 100%. And then we own the rest in partnerships. And so I think our lowest partnership is 25%. That's a 24 unit in Kennewick. And then we own 33% of the 8 unit and now 50% of this 25 unit. But we hired an executive assistant. She started on Monday and really, really excited about her. She's doing really good. Chrissy and I are always nervous. We've had some good people work for us, but they just haven't been the right seat at the right time. And it's made us nervous about hiring people, but so we knew we needed an executive assistant. So she's going to help Chrissy manage all the rentals. She's basically going to work like 70% of the time for Chrissy. And then she's going to help me with some things as well, but she is going to be fantastic and really help free up our time and help us manage those properties. So I remember listening to Brandon Turner back before I got into this. He said there's a point when you scale that you can hire somebody that makes sense. And so we will start spreading off some of her costs onto other properties to help cover her costs on the property management side. So really excited about that. We also have the 13 unit we're building. We just submitted boundary line adjustments yesterday for that. Little unsure with where lumber prices are. If we pull the trigger, it's going to cost us like an extra $16,000 a unit to build this. We don't need to build it right away. The question is, if we don't build it right now, the rates jump up. We kind of did that math. It still makes more sense to wait, even if rates jump up, I think, to do it if maybe lumber, slows down. So not really sure the right thing to do on that one, but we're just pushing forward and we'll see what happens. And we don't have to break ground right away once we get permits in hand. So that's kind of what's going on. Tied up another flip last week. That was a lead that somebody brought to me. They're like, hey, this property looks really bad in our neighborhood. We put my sales guy, Tony, on it. He called him, got him on the phone. I took it over a little bit from there, ended up locking it up. And so we're going to do that deal. I'm actually going to partner with the guy. It's the same guy that I'm doing my development stuff with. So we're going to partner on that deal. Should be a good one. I think we're at like 210, 215, somewhere in there. It's not going to be a home run deal, but it's going to be a good solid deal. It doesn't need, it needs decent amount of work, but not crazy amount of work. So it'd be a nice little one to keep our guys busy. Also, another thing on the 66 units, we actually now have our contractor that was working for us full time on all our flips. He's kind of getting older in life and is really good at a lot of things, but he wants to kind of maybe be put out to pasture a little bit. And so now he's just going to be our maintenance guy. So he's turning over units. He can do all the basic rehab on the units. He's turned over 11 units so far in our 24 unit. And so we're going to basically turn him into our maintenance guy. So that works really well for us and for him, where he can kind of ride out his life into retirement. So also another new hire we hired. So we've had Tony, our sales guy. He's out of Florida. He's working for us. He's a leads and sales manager for us. We hired him an assistant. So just a leads manager, US-based leads manager assistant, 20 hours a week. She started this week, and her sole job is just to follow up, talk to people, be bubbly, be happy, and talk to them about things as well. And like the deals, and keep the deals moving. So pretty excited about her getting started. So she started on Monday this week, and I think that's going to really help us. I feel like, I don't know about you guys, but I feel like the opportunities are just flooding in right now. I have more capital that wants to place with me than I've ever thought possible. I have more deals than I even know what to do and look at. I have more things coming at me right now than ever before. And, last year I talked a lot with people about, I have this catapult on my desk, and I talk about, you start grinding, you start going, you're like, I'm not going anywhere. But all you're doing is you're loading that catapult with opportunities and putting feelers out there and planting seeds, and you're pulling that catapult down. And eventually that catapult gets all the way to the bottom, and you push the button, and it just takes off. And I feel like I am at that stage right now where we have just hit launch, and I am very, very thankful, but it's very stressful and overwhelming because there's so many things, and I got to learn how to say no. I don't say no very well. So, that comes in with the call center too. The call center is exploding. We're actually turning people away. We're actually going to limit our investors. We're probably not going to let maybe only 3 or 4 more investors in our call center as we're going into new opportunities and new things and signing on bigger and better clients. And not better, but bigger clients. And so we tested the model with the hardest people to get a yes for, right? So the hardest yes to get is a wholesale, 60 cents on the dollar, sell your house quick. Yes, that's a hard yes to get. And so we built the model on the hardest yes there is, and we're moving into getting easier yeses, and it is working very, very well. And so that is mortgages, roofs, other things that are working well and other opportunities. So really just multiple things. Also, our data side of the business is really taking off. We've tested blind tests against this data source and this data source. Our data is the best, hands down the best. And it's more affordable than the other leading competitor that owns 90% of the market. So if you're getting data from like PropStream, Batch Leads, all these other companies, most of them are using IDI, and we've tested. Ours just ends up being better. And we tested that based off pulling, credit level data, which is the gold star, most expensive data you can get, but it's also not legal to use for real estate investing. We tested it with a Google algorithm and like this big server machine where it's pinging against everything. Our numbers matched up. The first number for the gold test, 91% of the time. The closest leading competitor was 49% of the time. Across the board, we were 76% matched for the first 3 phone numbers, and the other competitors were down in the 50s. And that matters. So our hit rate's not as high. We're in the 88 to 92% hit rate, but we're putting better numbers out there. And so when people say they have the highest hit rate in the industry or the highest this, whatever, hit rate doesn't matter if they're throwing numbers that are not good phone numbers in there. So yeah, you might get a phone number, but if it's not the right one, it doesn't matter. So whatever you're doing, whether it's cold calling, texting, skip tracing people for addresses to send return mail to, those things matter. Having the correct data in there matters, because then you're spending more time actually talking to people. So really excited about that. And I've worked really, really hard with our data provider to make sure our pricing is the lowest as possible. And it's getting lower every day. And we are way better than any of the leading competitors on pricing. So that is exciting. Also, we're building a list stacker into our Easy Button Leads platform where we're going to start pinging data from different sources, and we can automatically update data, but we can also stack your list. So we make sure we don't ever double skip things. We can save numbers. We can also, we'll building out things where we can actually talk to our data provider. So if there's a new number that comes up, it automatically gets put into that lead that has already been skip traced. And so that is going to be pretty awesome. Development is a lot slower. Land development and tech development are so slow. And it's really hard for somebody like me that is instant gratification driven, because these things take so much time, and it's just a process. And that is where having Tucker not only as a friend, but as the CEO of Call Magic and like a mentor, he is really good at understanding and bringing me back down and saying, hey, Elliot, these things take time. Patience, patience, patience. My grandpa always used to tell me that when I was a little kid. Patience is a virtue. Patience is a virtue. I don't think I listened, but I'm starting to learn patience right now. So what's going on in the world right now? Everybody's talking about Biden's new proposal for the tax changes. If you haven't heard about this, it's actually a big deal. If it goes through, it's a big deal. They might be talking about it, but it's interesting that they are putting these things on the chopping block. So they want to increase the top tax capital gains rate if you make over $1 million a year to, I think, 43%. And so you can say, well, that doesn't matter. I don't make $1 million a year. But if you sell an asset, then you make over $1 million, and you had $800,000 and you make $200,000 a year, you just made over $1 million a year. So then you get put into that tax bracket. Now, granted, there'll probably be for over $1 million is kind of where the tax that will kick in. And you say, well, I'll just 1031 that, so I don't have to pay any capital gains taxes. Well, they're looking at chopping the 1031 exemption as well out of there. So not only are they going to increase capital gains, they are going to kill the 1031, because the whole saying forever was trade, 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 die. And why dying at the end of the day matters is because your basis on that property was where the person that died bought the property. Well, they want to change that as well. And they want to make the basis be from the value at death. And that's where your step up basis is. And that's where they don't want to count that basis. That's what it would do is, so when you died, their basis would then be, say you bought the property for $100,000, say that property now is worth $500,000 when you die. Well, when you die, that new basis is $500,000. And then anything from 500 and above is what can be counted as gains. Well, they want to kill that and make your basis the $100,000. So say your parents bought all this property and, or your grandparents, and they bought it super cheap and they held it. And you're like, hey, we don't need to pay taxes on this, because it's a step up. Well, now they're changing that as well. So total money grab in a lot of ways to go fund their adventures of printing money to oblivion. And so really interesting. I've read from some economists, and like a lot of top economists, moderate economists, they say that if you raise the capital gains tax above 28 or 30%, you actually will collect less taxes overall, because you're going to stifle growth. And so if somebody's going to pay 43%, like Christy and I are looking at this and say, okay, we bought this 25 unit at this price. Say we then in 10 years, it's worth $4 million or whatever. Well, say we have $2 million in gains. What incentive do I have to sell it if I'm going to pay 40%? I'm going to pay $900,000, $800,000 of that in taxes, and I can't put it anywhere. So why would I sell it? I just keep it because I'm going to pay the property down or whatever and just keep the cash flow. So, that's going to be the big challenge is people they have the 1031 and they have those things in there to keep money moving. Like the most important thing for them to get taxes is money needs to move, because every time money moves, there's property tax, there's state sales tax, there's all these different taxes that they generate outside of an income tax or a capital gains tax that stimulate jobs and things like that. So the big concern that people have is that stifles growth and properties won't move as much. So then your cap rates might go higher. Your values of what people are willing to pay for the cap rates might increase. Like cap rates are really low right now, so they might increase. And so then you're going to lose value on your buildings that you currently have. And so there's all these implications. The one good thing that we have going for us is Joe Manchin is a moderate Democrat out of, I think, Virginia, and he's not playing ball with them on these things. So unless they can really get something on him or they can get something that he really likes, I don't think this moves forward as much. They also are talking about, which they're talking about taking care about the poor and the lower income people. But now they're talking about killing the SALT deduction, where Trump, in 2018, he put in there a SALT cap. So SALT is state, local taxes, and like interest paid on your mortgage. So what it was is when you buy your personal house, any of the interest you pay, the taxes, all those things on the mortgage, you can deduct those from your taxes ad infinitum, no limit. Well, Trump put that limit down to $10,000. So that's really hurt people in high tax, high property value states like California, New York, New Jersey, all those more left leaning states, Seattle area, things like that. Well, that tax really only, that hurt the rich, because people that have a lot of money have houses that have more than $10,000 of those things. But now they want to put it back, which is really interesting because that's a tax incentive to the rich. So I don't really understand their thinking. Well, actually, I do. I think they actually don't care about the rich. They just don't care about the middle class. Everything is really geared towards screwing the middle class at the end of the day and screwing the people on lower socially economic ladder. And so that is very interesting in that sense. And who knows where we go from here. But there's a lot going on. Inflation hit 4.2% yesterday, just came out. They don't count everything. It's very weird how they count it. And so I think inflation truly is a lot higher than that. Go to the grocery store, look at lumber. Lumber's 8x or whatever. I saw this stat that in a year ago, May 2020, it cost for $50,000 in lumber that built 10 and a half houses. In 2021, that same $50,000 in lumber only built 2.5 houses. So that's a lot more than 4.2% inflation just right there alone. You have the pipeline shut down that got the ransomware, which is increasing gas prices over there in the East Coast, more actually across the country. Biden shut down the Keystone Pipeline, which is a lot of the reasons why Canada, who owns most of our mills, is throttling the supply and kind of sticking it to us, it seems like, because there's not a shortage of wood. It's the mills that are throttling. You had a jobs report last week that came in way, way, way lower than expected. I think they were expecting like 800,000 to 1 million new jobs or something like that. And it came in with like 200 and some change. And really, there's like 8 million job openings. There's a lot of people looking that need to hire people, but people are making more on unemployment and there's stimulus money right now. So if you can't blame them if you're making $4,000 a month at your job, but you're getting $6,000 a month on unemployment, why would you ever go back? Why would you go back until this runs out? I mean, it's ethically, maybe it's not the right thing to do, but I mean, you're making $2,000 more a month. That $2,000 is a lot. That's, 50% increase. That's a big deal. So you can understand why people do it. So just interesting. And then you got tensions in the Middle East between, Hamas, Palestine, and Israel are going at it again, really bad this time. So hopefully that settles down. Our thoughts are with them. There's just seems like we've gone from one extreme with Trump to another extreme on this Biden, which is a lot softer person. And I feel like he's getting tested in every direction right now. And I don't know where this shakes out, but there's a lot of things going on in this world. One thing I can tell you that is my first thought on everything: do not press right now. Do not force deals to happen. There is so much uncertainty, and in this market, there's so many things. Make sure your numbers work on today. Don't bank on appreciation. Build in extra cushion for increased lumber, increased supplies. The supply chain is screwed terribly right now. Build in extra time on your timelines because, windows are taking 3 times as long to get. All these materials are taking all this time to get if you can get them. So if your project, you think it's going to take you 3 months, I would build in 6 to 9 months to make sure that you pencil that in for any of your financing holding costs, essential. And then price the property where it will sell today, if not a little bit lower. Make sure you're being very cautious right now. This is a very interesting time in the market. And that is what we are doing, is being we're pushing the gas as hard as we can in the right deals. And we're trying to leverage other people, and we're trying to spread our risk across different things. And so that's why we're branching out into the call center, multifamily, data. We still do fix and flips, development. We're doing different things to spread that risk out along the way. So anyway, that's what I got this week, guys. Let me know if you have any comments or thoughts or have any questions on this. Hit me up on Instagram at Elliott Smith REI. I answer questions with people all the time. I'm getting hit up daily, and I'm having dialogue with people. Hit me up there, putting out good content. If you have any questions about the call center, it's just callmagicleads.com. You can fill out a form and talk to us about that. But other than that, I wish you all the best. We'll talk to you guys next week, and signing out. All later.